So hang on. Let me get this straight. You're telling me that if I told you I was making a video on a $100 headphone that has active noise cancellation, 72 hours of battery life, and get this, the ability to play music over USB-C and bypass any DAC on your laptop or phone, so you don't ever have to carry a DAC. This for high-res music, that you're telling me you wouldn't watch that video? I thought you might. This is the Kiwi Ears Ardor, and it's a $100 headphone. And for a $100 headphone, to be honest, it's fine. A little bit cheap feeling, but it is comfy on the head. The ear cup's definitely deep enough and wide enough, so that's nice. Cushioning is actually quite nice, and the same thing is for the headrest up top. Now, if I put it on my ears, there's a little bit of pressure right up top over here, but honestly, not too bad. Adjustment, plenty. In and out as well, and this even folds like so. In fact, it even folds like so, and it comes with a case. One little quirk, the case only allows you to hold the headphones like this, so even though you can fold it to become even more compact, you can't actually carry that with you in that form. But nice slim hard case, pretty good actually. So when you're flying out and about, you got your ANC, you got your hard case. $100. Also, it comes with couple of cables and a place to store those cables, and also they've got this little leatherette detail. That's nice with the Kiwi Ears embossed. That's a nice little detail. It feels good. Now overall, yes, it does feel a little cheap, but it's comfortable. It looks good for $100. I'm not complaining. On the buttons front, it's got an ANC button, volume up and down, and a power button. But that power button is actually a multi-function button. And my one huge criticism, well, I've got two criticisms. We'll get to that. One huge criticism is that this button, it's assigned to way too many things. The same button will play and pause your music. The same button will answer and reject your calls. The same button will switch between I just forgotten. There's a user manual that comes with it with like 17 different functions bound to this one poor little button. So Kiwi Ears, if you're listening, a couple of more buttons wouldn't hurt. Honestly, this is a bit much. Or touch controls, but $100 headphone. That's asking for too much. I get it. I will be reviewing the Sennheiser Momentum 4, which has some amazing touch controls soon. So subscribe for that one. I'm going to take my time with that one and do like a nice... There's a lot to get into. But back to the Kiwi Ears Ardor. Now, 72 hours of battery life claimed is phenomenal. And even if you give half that, it's fine by me. It doesn't have fast charging. In fact, I think it only charges about 10-12% in 8 minutes or 10 minutes, but that also means 10 minutes of charge equals about 8 to 9 hours of battery life, so it's pretty good. Now, it is to be noted that if you plug in the USB-C, it automatically switches to USB-C mode, where I believe it simultaneously charges the device and plays your audio, which is a very, very cool thing. That's the sort of feature you get in something like a Focal Batis, which is hundreds of dollars more, so I appreciate that. Now, it all comes down to the sound, so let's talk about it. Transparency is not AirPods Pro level transparency. It's very much amplify your surroundings kind of transparency, and if you like that, you'll get that, but it sounds very unnatural, and unfortunately, there's no customization. In fact, there is no app that comes with it, so hang on to that user manual, because that tells you everything you need to know on how to actually use this thing, because there's no other way. ANC, on the other hand, is a slightly different matter. It is not the kind of ANC that will actually cut out human voices, but the lower, the bassier sounds, they get cut out really, really well. This makes a genuine difference in a lot of places, but if you need to switch to transparency to talk to someone, you don't need to. If they're standing somewhat close to you, like within 5 feet of you, you're going to hear them even with ANC on. They will be subdued a little bit, to be fair. It's not all that bad, but you can have a conversation with them. So my suggestion is stay on ANC mode. It's going to do everything you need it to do. That's my way of saying the ANC is strictly B+. I'm going to give it a B+. It's not A- even, but it's earned a B+. Now, let's talk about sound quality. This is meant to be used with the active noise cancelling on, because with it off, the frequency response is different and the sound signature is different. You definitely want to have it on. The best sound quality you're going to get, at least the best data throughput you're going to get, is via USB-C, because while it does support Bluetooth 5.4 as claimed by Kiwi Ears, it does not support any higher resolution codec. No LDAC, no LHDC, no aptX, nothing except SBC and AAC, which is fine. I have said so before, it doesn't matter as long as the tuning is good, the tonal balance is good, then we start adding high-res codecs on top of that. So let's talk about that tonal balance, shall we? It's interesting, right? First, when I put these on, I listened to music and I thought to myself, oh, interesting. The bass is punchy and not bleeding into the mids. There's no masking, there's no extra warmth, but at the same time, vocals sound really rich and very forward, and there's a little too much treble. I'm a little treble sensitive, but this does sound like it has a little extra treble even then. But something was nagging. Something was just at the back of my mind saying, something's off. Yes, it's very rich in the vocals and whatnot, but why does it feel odd? I thought the bass maybe lacked a little body, but maybe they just did that so that it did not bleed into the mids and did not make the mids unclear. That's understandable. A lot of IEMs and headphones do that. So then I switched this out for the same tracks and used the X Mark V, the Sony X Mark V, running my own custom EQ, which sounds significantly different from the stock EQ. And also for the same tracks, I tried it out with my Sennheiser HD6XX. And that's when I realized there is a massive difference. Yes, the vocals sound rich. They sound a little too rich. Honestly, it's like adding reverb and richness to voices and everything in the mid-range, where the track doesn't even have that kind of richness. None of the other headphones I used, even the Altia Caliber 1H I used, didn't sound like that at all. Everything sounded a lot more mellow and relaxed on pretty much every other headphone I've used. And also the bass, it sounded fuller on everything. I'm talking even the Sennheiser HD6XX, which is not known to have too much bass emphasis at all. It's quite nice actually, but it sounded more full than this. So it was time to do some measurements. Now, headphone measurements are always tricky. It doesn't matter how expensive your equipment is, it's always a little tricky because a slight difference in positioning of the headphone changes a lot. So here's what I did. Took one of these freaky ear things that are made to conform to a certain standard, or that is claimed by the Chinese manufacturer that made this to the KB 5001 standard, I think. That with an IEC 711 coupler, microphone, you get the idea, right? This jammed into this in a way that seems kind of natural. It seems like I'm getting a good seal, and then I move it around and I take a number of measurements. Then I eliminate what is completely out of whack because I've clearly done something wrong with the positioning, and I average the rest of the results out. And then I do the same thing, same methodology for the XM5 as well as the Sennheiser HD6XX to see what was so different about the sound. And here's what I found out. So this is the frequency response of the HD6XX. Even if you don't know how to read frequency responses, that's okay. I'll take you through some of the basics, right? So on the x-axis is all the frequencies of the human hearing range, 20 Hz to 20 kHz. On the y-axis is amplitude, or basically loudness. So whenever a certain set of frequencies are pushed forward, that is to say emphasized, they are louder. This is the Sony XM5, for example. The bass is louder. Similarly, there's usually a peak at around 3 kHz, which is also pushed up. And the reason that is, you know, this part of your ear that actually amplifies a wide range of frequencies, but the peak of that amplification is usually around 2 to 3.5 kHz, somewhere in between that range, right? So if you're putting on headphones that are going to pump music directly into your ear and kind of bypass the effect of this, they have to replicate that effect. So all headphones, in-ear monitor, earphones, everything will have that peak at 3 kHz. That's how you get it to sound natural. Now, how that peak is sculpted in this and that, that's where reviewers come and tell you this sounds a little more treble forward, this sounds a little more mid forward, etc. Okay, now this is the Sennheiser HD6XX. It is excellent in frequency response, but a little lacking in bass for what usually people want. But you see that flat mid-range and you see that rise going to a peak of 3 kHz. This is what the 6XX is known for. Really, really even tuning. Not necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but well done nonetheless. This is the Sony XM5, and this is my custom EQ again. You'll see a similar flat mid-range, you'll see a bass rise, and you'll see a similar peak at about 2.5-3 kHz. This is weird spike at 1 kHz. Ignore that for now. That's a Sony XM5 quirk, and the EQ can't even fix that because the XM5 EQ works weirdly. That's a whole different other video, right? But then there's this rise at 3 kHz as expected, which is exactly kind of how it should be. Overall, you see the HD6XX and the Sony XM5 all are very smoothly tuned. Now, This is the Kiwi Ears Ardor. Couple of big issues here. One, it's not smoothly tuned. There's a lot. You see the treble there? It's going all wavy and up and down. That's not fantastic. But more importantly, there's no peak at 3 kilohertz. You see 500, 600, 700 hertz. They're all the same level as the 3 kilohertz level. And then in the treble, again, it doesn't fall off beyond 3 kilohertz, which it should. It just stays there, which is why I thought there was more treble. In the 200, 300 hertz range, there is a big dip. A little bit of a dip there generally cleans up the mids, and I understand why some people might do that, but it's a tuning choice. In this case, there's way too much of a dip. That's why the bass was feeling less full, just incomplete. To my ears at least. The way we listen to headphones, we first set a volume level that makes sense to us, and that volume level is either dependent on bass, if it's very, very emphasized bass, or it's dependent on the mids. Most of the information we have in music is in the mids, and that's what you would use to set your level. If you set your level at, 75, 80, 85 decibels, which is kind of what a lot of people listen, I think people listen even louder, but whatever you set it as, now instead of the 500 to 1000 hertz point being a good, 8, 9, maybe 12, 13 decibels lower, it's in line, which is why the vocals sound, the entire mid-range sounds really pushed forward, really exaggerated and reverberant and rich, but completely unnatural. And to be fair, when you put the Kiwi Ears Ardor on, it'll sound rich and reverberant and full and bassy and punchy and all those things. So a lot of people are going to say, wow, these things sound great. Until they put some other better tuned headphone on and they realize that, oh, it doesn't sound natural at all. Vocals, they're not supposed to sound like that in that track. This sounds a lot more natural. This sounds like that person's voice. And that's the problem with the Kiwi Ears Ardor. Now, can it be fixed with EQ? Kind of. I used Wavelet to do a little bit of EQ, basically boosted that 200 hertz trough up a little bit and then reduced the sort of 5 to 800 hertz ish a little bit and so on. And this is what I came up with. It's a weird wonky EQ, but the end result actually sounds way nicer, way less rich in the mids, but fuller in the bass and overall more natural. And I really, really prefer this. Here's the thing. There's too much of an EQ required to make this sound more natural and balanced. If you like it out of the box, I'm not telling you not to, but I'm just saying that's just not how that song sounds. Does it sound outright bad? I think for a lot of people it's going to sound a lot of fun. So I'm not going to take away from your experience, but in my opinion, it's one too many EQ points required to fix the sound. If it was just one thing like the Technics AZ100 video, where you just reduce the bass and you get basically a pretty good sound for most genres, that was a good, relatively good IEM. Can it be better? Sure, but that was good. And the end result was really nice. This, too many EQ points later, it sounds better, more natural, and still not fantastic. So no, I don't think the Kiwi Ears Ardor sounds great. I don't think they've done a good job in tuning, and given that this is an audio first brand, I'm a little bit disappointed. Meanwhile, I will give this headphone away. You can use my EQ and it's a free headphone, but become a member or a Patreon and you will be eligible for giveaways and a little extra bonus content every now and then. Okay, I'll be giving away other stuff also, even if you don't want the Ardor. There's other cool stuff coming your way. This year is going to be a lot of giveaways, so I will see you in the next video. Meanwhile, stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.